Some of the work that High Res was doing early on, like the Donnie Darko site, the Requiem site, like that work, the combination of the storytelling and the way in which they did it, like the actual visual and interactive manifestation of that story, that to me was what kind of like sucked me in, you know, very early on in my career, just where it was less about, it wasn't advertising, it wasn't marketing, it was this story coming to life in this very compelling way. And I remember the first time going through like the Donnie Darko site, and it's just like, you're just sucked in. It's almost like the whole world doesn't exist anymore, and you're just inside this moment, and all of a sudden you realize that you've been looking at this site for like 30 minutes. And so like those moments, I think, that feeling that you get when you're going through that interactive experience, that kind of sucked me into the industry, I think, very early on. We worked on the gift mixer with Crispin. So Crispin approached us. Borders was their client. They had this idea where they wanted to create some kind of machine, some type of thing where there was input, like different attributes, different kind of things that, funny, you know, all sort. There was a lot of input, and they wanted to basically just get recommendations out. It was a recommendation engine, but taken to a totally new level. So the creative brief was kind of that. It was essentially, we need to sell books and CDs and DVDs for Borders, but it's around the holiday time and people don't know what to buy for their family members or their friends. But they know who their family members and their friends are. They know what they're into. They kind of know their different attributes. How can we create this machine that does both of those things? The timeline was so crazy and so fast. It was kind of like, here's the idea. Do you guys want to make it? We were like, yeah, it sounds awesome. And then all of a sudden we were just making this thing. So early on, it was very much around what is this? What does the gift mixer look like? You know, and I think we went through a long design process for what the actual machine kind of looked like. It started like, June, who's now our chief creative officer, was kind of the lead designer and 3D artist and programmer. He kind of did almost everything with the site, which is kind of pretty amazing when you think about it. It was actually his first project at Firstborn. He was there maybe a week or so, and he jumped into this project. So he started actually sketching what the machine could look like. So it first took a very like illustration-driven type form, and presented that stuff to Crispin, and I think they had like a different vision. So we collaborated with them as to what this thing could look like. We went out and bought like old radios, old like kind of like clock radios and different types of machines, used those as inspiration. So June would actually have like an old radio on his desk, and he'd be modeling a similar looking thing in 3D, so we can kind of go through different design iterations with Crispin and with the client. So then we started to think about, how does this thing come to life? And so Crispin wrote all the lines, all the copy and the voiceover that you see, which really, without that, the experience is a way different, and I think a way less experience. One of the funny parts of the whole process was so June was doing the 3D and the design work, and we were in a pretty good spot with it, and we're like, all right, great, so we can, you know, give this to our developers, and this is like his third week at Firstborn, you know, from Korea, and he says, guys, I could program this if you want me to program it, and we're kind of looking around, and we're like, all right, so this guy designs and he does 3D and he's gonna program this thing. And like all of a sudden, literally within like a week, he's got the sliders going and it's all animated and like the voiceover's in, and this thing, it was just kind of cool. It like started as a sketch and started to literally like take shape into this real living thing. It had a personality. And I think that personality is what really drew people into the experience. When I go back and I think about, and not to say that this isn't evident in sites and experiences now. Like back then, there wasn't as many, digital meant certain things, and digital means certain things now, but it means more things now. You know, like we weren't consuming content on mobile devices the way we are now many years ago, right? But one of the things that was so, and not just in like the gift mixer, but if you look at a lot of the similarities I take from like the old school projects, there's this really inherent emotional connection with the consumer, with the user, that audience, and the actual experience. I remember like the moment sitting down to the Donnie Darko site for the first time, or for, you know, some of these older sites, and it takes you to this different place. And I want to make sure that we don't lose that. We don't lose the sense of how important that emotional connection is with whatever the experience is and the actual audience. Because I feel like if we lose that, it's kind of, I don't know, you're taking a lot of the theater out of the experience. And I think there's something really, really rich, you know, about that.